We're going to wait a couple of minutes because there's people just trying to sign in right now. So I'll be about 5 minutes or so before I start. I wanted to welcome everybody here. For those who don't know me, my name is Simon Alford. I'm the head of the Department of Anatomy and Cell Biology, and got to know Mary Jo because I came to be sort of her boss, although that's not really the right way of describing it. I think she was very much my boss. And just before I start, there was an aside. We sat down in her office before I even took the job, and she says, "I'm going to hold you to account." And she did, which is not a bad thing. But thank you all for coming today, and welcome. It's both good and sad to see both faces I don't know and faces I've known for many years. And we're all here to remember and celebrate Mary Jo's life, her achievements, and her contributions to our lives. Some of you knew MJ as family, others as friends or a colleague. All of you knew that she was passionate about her work, her students, her friends, and of course, her cats. To me as a colleague, two parts of her life stand to the fore. One was her commitment to find the cures to Alzheimer's disease, and the second was to this institution, to UIC, the institution, its students, and its efforts to support the broadest possible community. In both of these endeavors, she left a legacy. So, as I noted, I don't know some faces, I know other faces well, but all of you, our colleagues and guests, came today to express their own words of what MJ meant to them and to us. Some colleagues have known MJ since she was a graduate student, and her family, of course, for many years longer still. As a relative newcomer, I feel I should keep my words relatively short. However, for those of you who know me, I am a son of the Welsh Valleys, And my mother's last name was Thomas, or pronounced correctly, Thomas. So I turned to the words of another Thomas, Dylan Thomas, a child of the same place. He had words for all of our ends that are actually very well known. But I don't think it's appropriate today to rage against the dying of the night. Because all of us as scientists actually leave a legacy in which our light does not die, but remains. It just so happens that Mary Jo's legacy is bigger than most of ours. But Dylan Thomas wrote another poem. He wrote that death is not the end of who we are, and that is what I would like to think of Mary Jo's considerable legacy. And death shall have no dominion. No more may gulls cry at their ears, or waves break loud on the seashores. Where blew a flower, may a flower no more lift its head to the blows of the rain. Though they be mad and dead as nails, heads of the characters hammer through daisies, break in the sun till the sun breaks down, and death shall have no dominion. Thank you all. Bob, can I introduce Dr. Bob Barish, the VCR for the health system here.
Thank you. Well, greetings to all the members of the College of Medicine and university community who've come together in person and virtually to honor the life of our esteemed colleague, Dr. Mary Jo Ladu. Indeed, it's no surprise that so many of you have gathered today to commemorate the amazing impact and legacy that Mary Jo leaves both within our scientific community and in our personal lives. So as the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs, I had the pleasure of working with Mary Jo as a trusted confidant and a counselor. She was a member of our Health Affairs Task Force and a powerful voice among the UIC Senate. In each of our interactions, I always valued her candor and commitment to the common good. Now, she was on my search committee, and I remember I was applying from Louisiana State University, Louisiana, to Chicago, and the culture's a little bit different in Louisiana than Chicago. And Mary Jo says, "You know, Bob, I want you to come here, but you better stay 10 years, because that's what it's going to take to get anything done." And I said, "Well, Mary Jo, I might have a couple bosses in between. I might not be able to, but I'll try and stay for 10 years. So next January, I start my 9th. And, you know, she was just a great friend. Some of you may have gone down to Starbucks before you came in here. Mary Jo and I met almost every 2 weeks at Starbucks, and I would ask her opinion on things. And as she said, "I'm going to hold you accountable." Well, she would hold me accountable. And I would often say, "Mary Jo, what do you think about this idea, what I'm thinking?" She goes, "You got to be kidding. You're not really going to do that." And so I took her advice. I know that when she had her illness, she would call me, and we would help Mary Jo, and she was always calling me. We're on speed dial. And I have to tell you, I really love Mary Jo. I mean, I really love Mary Jo. And, I cried when I got the news. So you've all heard about her personal commitment to innovative discovery and a pursuit of a cure for Alzheimer's. My wife used to always ask me, "How Mary's Jo doing? Is she going to cure Alzheimer's?" And I said, "She's working on it. She's working on it." She had the never-ending support of her students. She used to call them her kids. "I got to go see my kids during the pandemic. It's always, I've got to go see the kids, make sure they're okay." She was so devoted to the students, the fellows, and trainees that were involved in her lab and teaching. She demonstrated an unparalleled passion for making the future one that was better for everyone. And I know she made it better for me at this university. She really did. She always displayed a particular commitment to fostering the next generation of scientists and innovators. You saw the awards that she won out in 2016. Amazing. She was an inspiration to anyone who encountered her, and she leaves a tradition of commitment and hope that many of you are sure to carry forward into professional and personal experiences. She set the example for the power of mentors. She was the greatest mentor. I have no doubt she was an inspiration to each of us in the room. As I said, I was deeply saddened to hear of Mary Jo's passing, and it took a long time for me to stop crying. I hope her family, friends, and colleagues may find peace in her impact and legacy that she leaves at UIC. We will forever be grateful for her scientific contributions and development of the future generations of biomedical scientists and innovators. So thank you for all joining in the celebration of her life. And now I'd like to read a letter from the former Chancellor, Chancellor Emeritus, also a great friend and colleague of Mary Jo. And I talked to Chancellor Emeritus, who's the president of the University of South Carolina now, and he wrote this. Dear UIC friends and colleagues, I don't like very early morning calls and messages because frequently it's bad news. When my phone beeped with a message at 6:30 a.m. on March 29th, I saw Bob Barish's name, which means 5:30 a.m. in Chicago. I knew it was not good. Very sad news, Michael. Mary Jo passed suddenly last night. Very sad news indeed, as that morning the UIC family lost one of its most committed members. Mary Jo loved this university. She cared deeply about the students, especially her kids, as she called her research group. She cared about her colleagues, and she cared about the entire university. She believed and was committed to the urban mission of UIC, and at the same time, she was committed to excellence and was not willing to compromise either of them, and she lived by her principles. She also held the leadership at all levels accountable, as we heard just a few minutes ago. She did it with passion, and as a result, some thought she was rough, and some were even scared of her. I had a great relationship with her, and I admired her commitment. I respected and would seek her opinion, and I knew she was persistent but also fair. And on a couple of occasions when I managed to break through her armor, she even admitted in retrospect that maybe she had been wrong. Eero, his wife, and I will remember and miss Mary Jo. I wish her time was longer and she would realize her dream of retiring to a warmer place near the sea. That is what she would tell me all the time when she would come back from her winter vacations in Mexico. More importantly, I know that MJ will be missed at UIC. She'll be missed by her colleagues and friends. She'll be missed by her UIC kids. But it is through these students that her commitment and legacy will continue to live and hopefully pass to even younger generations. I hope this will also include holding the leadership accountable. Mary Jo, I will miss you and remember you. Michael Emeritus. Thank you.
And now we will have some videos from colleagues who could not attend.
I'm very sorry I can't be able to join you today in person, but I very much appreciate the opportunity to share with you the appreciation that we have for all the work that Dr. Mary Jo Ladu did on behalf of our college and indeed our university. In short, Dr. Ladu was an exemplary faculty member who really embodied all of what we hope we have in our faculty. Her intellect, her passion, her humanity shone through always. Dr. Ladu was a world-class scientist. The work that she did on the mechanisms of Alzheimer's disease, as well as the work that she did on therapeutics for this disease, really an unmet need, and her desire to create discovery and ultimately cures would make the difference in the lives of patients was remarkable. Her intellectual product, her academic products were extensive, published well over 100 papers. She was always very, very well funded, an acknowledgement of the quality of her work. And really, her departure is a great loss to the field of Alzheimer's disease research. She was also a wonderful servant to our college and the university. She was on our college exec committee, on the UIC Senate, in fact, on the executive committee of the Senate for many, many years. And her candid feedback and candid understanding of what our college is and what it should be was always appreciated. And all of her work to make us better was, I think, important in the successes that we've had as a college. And finally, Dr. Ladu was an amazing human being. She was generous of her time and her spirit. Those who had a chance to work in her lab as either undergraduates, graduate students, postdoctoral fellows know how generous she really was. Also, the young faculty. I know that MJ was always the first to bring new faculty into the department, into her fold, and to help them in any way that she could. And I think their success is also in large part due to her great work and sacrifice in some cases. So I'd like to express my sincerest appreciation for all that Dr. Ladu has done. She will be greatly missed, really irreplaceable for our college and our university. Thank you.
The pandemic brought many things: disease, disruption, and too frequently, death. It also created a level of comfort with Zoom, enabling virtual classrooms and family gatherings. You might have hoped that Zoom, which often limits the audio to a single person, would have cured MJ or me of our irritating, if not obnoxious, habit of interrupting people. Not so much. It was destined that she and I would be friends when, during her first faculty meeting, I interrupted MJ, saying she was the first person I had ever known who could interrupt herself. She let loose with a laugh because she knew it was true. And for the two of us, it worked because real friendship is often 90% improv. The other 10% is intentionality, and some will remember that she went above and beyond during the initial months of the pandemic, securing scarce PPE, searching for preprints on long COVID, or asking you not to hang up so she could listen to your breathing as she stood vigil. In youth, events and shared experiences create friendships that may last a lifetime. Age makes that process infrequent and rare. We have colleagues. We come together to teach, administer, and occasionally to celebrate. In non-pandemic times, a knock on our door would elicit a shouted "in," followed by "beverage." The variety of teas was vast, but if the planets aligned, you'd be offered what I believe was a Korean honey citron ginger tea that claimed to boost the immune system. No tea will be spilled this afternoon. MJ had an emotional range that spanned at least 5 octaves. For me, that range was familiar, never threatening. The topics of conversation could range from ApoE to the E Street Band, from the gut biome to Lady Gaga, from tangles to her latest tats. She could be very up, or not. The research was always exciting, the variable routes of funding often frustrating, and her Chicago family was the lab, and her focus was the people in it. She had little regard for pedigree and was able to discover talent regardless of origin. She was an ardent supporter of the UIC mission and expanding franchise. Her support of undergraduates in the Honors College is legendary. Products of that mentoring have progressed through our medical school and the graduate program in neuroscience. One of her former postdocs is now tenured faculty in the department. MJ was an advocate of the college and UIC. She served on the faculty senate for a decade. I've had administrative roles in the graduate college for 2, and these venues gave us a global appreciation of what UIC is and what it could become. In the old curriculum, she was one of my histology faculty. By the end, she has the most annotated copy of our text. She also inspired a total revamp of the course. When I took over, we used binocular microscopes. Early on, MJ confessed that when she looked out a scope, all she saw were flashes of light. A local group held the patent on stitching together 3-dimensional slide scans. We converted the entire class set. With M1s required to have laptops, their web browsers became virtual microscopes, and MJ was the Energizer Bunny going from lab group to lab group identifying structures. Success in life requires not only showing up, but surviving all of its challenges. MJ was a survivor. Celebration at each opportunity was mandatory because there were tragedies enough in life. For the past decade, we periodically maintained what mathematicians would call a normal relationship. Post-surgery, she often worked lying down, and prior to my back surgery, I could only work standing up. Mary Jo, the clear advantage I have of participating virtually is that I can use as many takes as are necessary to get through this. Today I'm in Cambridge, the first stop in contacting the few who remain from our life 4 decades ago in England. Celebration, while one can, is, as always, an imperative. Oh, one more thing. August 11th, Wrigley Field. It will be my first time seeing Bruce in person, but I know you'll be there. For your memory is a blessing.
Hello, everyone. I'm Guo Jinbu, an old friend and colleague of Mary Jo Ladu. Mary Jo and I met in mid-90s. That's right.
Piano. There are many of you that have organized this memorial, and I want to thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share my memories of Mary Jo. To Mary Jo's family, friends, and colleagues, my deepest sympathies. I've known or knew Mary Jo for almost 40 years, and therefore through the many seasons of her life. Grief is an uncomfortable place to be, and there will be hard days ahead. However, I sincerely hope that as you think of Mary Jo, you will eventually find moments of healing and some joy. I knew that many of you today would share much about Mary Jo's brilliance as a scientist, mentor, and educator. And if there are any of her students here, which I think there are, I know that she pushed you hard, but you were always her priority. And she only wanted the best for her students. So now I would like to share a few points about Mary Jo. How I met Mary Jo. One factor story I believe many of you probably don't know, and then I would like to read a few lines from a Bruce Springsteen song, because as we all know, she was a huge Springsteen fan. So I'm going to tell you the story of how I met her, since it's so iconic and so typical. We, of course, met in the Health Sciences Library on Polk Street, and it was after a biochemistry test. She walked up and said, "Piano. I heard you were the only one that passed the biochem test. And is it okay if I call you Piano? Because I don't remember your first name." And that was the beginning of our friendship. Now, at least in the Piano family, she is a legend because she was Michael's, my oldest son's, first babysitter. I was desperate for a haircut, and at the same time, I needed an experienced cat handler. And of course, that was Mary Jo. We had this cat, Tiger, who essentially hated everyone and had become very attached to our new baby. Mary Jo assured me that she could handle the situation. After all, she was a cat person. So I left, and I will spare you the in-between details. But when I arrived home, Mary Jo was disheveled, and Tiger was nowhere to be found. She then proceeded to tell me how she had to develop this netting technique to isolate Tiger, to capture Tiger, and then isolate her in the bathroom. Rest assured, Michael was fine, but she, but she of course stated unless I rid the house of this cat, she would never babysit again. So Mary Jo and I, along with others, took break from studying physiology, and just one break, and attended several Bruce Springsteen concerts. And of course, we heard so many great songs. But this one captured my heart, and I wanted to read a few adapted lines. The road is long and seemingly without end. The days go on, but I will remember you, my friend. And though you're gone and my heart's been emptied, it seems I'll see you in my dreams. When all our summers have come to an end, I'll see you in my dreams. We'll meet and live and laugh again, for death is not the end, and I'll see you in my dreams. Mary Jo, if you're looking down, please know that many of us here today will always hold you deeply in our hearts. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Meena Rao, and I want to extend my deepest condolences to all of you in this room and who are watching us from Zoom and any other device. We've all lost a dear, dear friend. Mary Jo was one of a kind. I've known her for, Mary Ann, I think it's more like 30 years, not 40, but anyway, for about 35 years, because when she was a graduate student, she was a green graduate student, and I was a greener new faculty member. And we took, and I delighted in grilling her in her prelim exams, and she did it with great confidence. Then she returned to UIC as a colleague in the College of Medicine, and I was her colleague then at UIC, in the college, and at the University of Illinois as a whole. We wafted in and out of college executive committee meetings, UIC Senate executive committee meetings, University Senate's conference, variable trips to Urbana and back, and various efforts to raise money for women advancement, especially in the College of Medicine. Most important, MJ was a friend. We spent many a Sunday morning the last few years in her bright condo, sipping tea, as Jonathan Art said, of varying flavors, making gold milk. She persuaded me that I needed to help her make gold milk, and covering topics ranging from deck furniture to solving politics. And Bob Barish, I won't tell you what kind of politics we tried to solve. As has been said, MJ was a unique and multi-talented lady, an erudite scholar, a passionate teacher, and a fierce advocate of the underdog, be it student or junior colleague, and one who never hesitated to speak up, as we've heard. She was a person who marched to her own drumbeat. I want to end by reading a quote from her classmate, Dr. Constance Alberison, who's now a professor of pathology at MD Anderson. We're talking about now the late 80s, when all these ladies were classmates. Constance had just arrived from the Philippines to join our graduate program. And on reading of MJ's passing, she said, quote, "Oh my goodness, Meena, I remember Mary Jo. She looks the same with that somewhat self-deprecating grin." I sent her this picture. She was sarcastically funny and a fun classmate, truly American in her generosity of spirit and inclusion, her honest, outspoken opinions. Critical, but I could see she truly cared about making and having things be better. I still remember my favorite pink rugby shirt handed down from Mary Jo. I loved it because it was pink, very American, and of course it was free. The thought of the pinkness still brings a smile to my face and reminds me of her to this very day. In the spirit of not wasting, I think I donated it to Goodwill, and I do hope someone else got to enjoy that pinkness for a while. Fleeting but enjoyable, just like Mary Jo's presence was in my life. Thank you.
I'm Sandy DeGroot, Vice Chair of the Senate, and I met Mary Jo on the UIC Senate, but I really got to know her well because of University Senate's conference, because we often made many trips together down to Urbana and to Springfield, and that's where I really got to know her personally. During our Senate and USC meetings, I saw what an advocate Mary Jo was for UIC. At our USC meetings, if someone didn't know that it was wasn't just UIUC in the room, Mary Jo would, of course, let them know. And if there were any slights made against UIC, not to worry, Mary Jo set them straight. Mary Jo was unabashedly Mary Jo, but this was a reflection of her great pride that she held for UIC and her desire to see UIC and its people successful. So just in terms of some of the things that Mary Jo did, when UIC and the U of I system were looking to better manage our healthcare enterprise, there were a number of conversations happening on the Senate Executive Committee. And I recall several times Mary Jo talking about how the strength of UIC was in the connection of all the colleges together. And through these conversations, ultimately it was decided that we would have the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs. And Mary Jo was a very strong advocate for forming a advisory group to the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs to make recommendations on the process of reorganization and to help maintain transparency. More recently, related to the impact of COVID-19, it was Mary Jo that advocated to the administration for making bridge funding available for junior faculty, and she helped draft that proposal in terms of what it would look like. So Mary Jo was a really strong advocate for UIC, and she made a difference. Thanks.
Hi. I'm Bill Rebeck. I got to know Mary Jo when we were both postdocs, and she was studying lipids. I don't know why anybody would study lipids. And I was studying Alzheimer's disease, which, come on, is a good thing to study. And she came, ApoE came up as a topic. Alan Rose is at Duke. And those of you who don't know anything about ApoE, it's, I mean, seriously, like the most important thing in the world. If you go to 23andMe, they'll tell you if you're Scottish and what your ApoE genotype is. I mean, that's, anyway. She came up to me and she was like, we should work together. So there were probably 5 people working on ApoE at the time. 2 of them were crazy. I won't say which of the 2 of us were crazy, but Mary Jo did all this stuff to like convince the world that ApoE was important. And when I say she did it, I mean she got me to do some of it, but she had this way of doing things where she would like just do it. And then she would like we're going to have a symposium on ApoE. Bill, you're going to help me with it. And I'd be like, okay. Mary Jo and I, just to be clear, like shouldn't have been friends, and we're really not very similar to each other at all. And I'm not going to be one of these people who's like, you know, but like we understood each other. I don't know that I ever understood Mary Jo. So there were times it was great not to understand Mary Jo. There were times that it was just crazy and funny. So she would organize these symposium, and then like, I don't know if you've gone to scientific meetings, but like you'd have these people, you'd be in charge. So you'd be sitting at like a table, and then these people would come up and they'd talk on the topic about ApoE. And then, you know, you were supposed to mediate what was going on. And so like the first person would start talking and she'd lean over to me and be like, did you read any of the abstracts? I didn't read any of the abstracts. Yes, Mary Jo, of course I read all the abstracts. I have questions that I can ask the people if the audience doesn't ask. Of course I did. And she did this to me for years. Bill, I think we need a program project grant. I've organized a bunch of people. Let's do it. Okay, Mary Jo. And then, of course, you know, like it's just hard. It's just hard to do all this stuff. But it wouldn't have happened if she didn't like just start and assume everything was going to work out. Mary Jo, by the way, would be shocked that I'm standing up here with no idea what I'm going to say next. This is not my personality, but I was just like, I can't think about this. So she, like the program project, Mary Jo she always called me an Eeyore when it came to science or outcomes or data. So I feel good that I finally deserve to be an Eeyore in this moment. I'm so sorry, and I'm sorry for so many of us who are going to miss her. I was reading a book today, and I'm reading a book today, just a book. And there's a quote in it from Yeats. I never do quotes. This is not what I'm like. There's a forward quote. I can remember a forward quote. And it was, okay, I can only partially remember a forward quote. In dreams begin responsibilities. And I read that quote today, and I was like, it's Mary Jo. She had these dreams, and she took the responsibilities for those dreams. She had a napkin, I don't know, maybe it's still up there. I think it was framed for a while, that Brown or Goldstein, one of the Nobel laureates, I don't know which one, she was sitting next to him at something, and he wrote, you're gonna cure this thing. She'd been talking about her ApoE amyloid mice. Obviously impressive. He must have been impressed. Oh, he's a big lipid guy, so she like stuck with lipids. You're gonna cure this thing. And we're still there. None of us get to do that, but she did something. She took her responsibility seriously. That's it. I'm sorry I didn't practice, Mary Jo.
Hi, I'm Scott Brady, and I'm happy to say that I was responsible for bringing Mary Jo back to UIC and never looked back. She was a wonderful addition. Mary Jo was unique. I have never known another person quite like her, and I doubt I ever will. She was smart, funny, and passionate about whatever she undertook, whether it was science, UIC, her students and postdocs, her friends and family, or cats. She was impatient with dogma and crusaded against it in both science and everyday life. She was in many ways fearless and did not hesitate to speak up when she saw something that she considered unfair or wrong. There were times when she was a bull in a china shop, but her heart was big and in the right place. I could go on and on, but everybody in this room knows Mary Jo, or at least knew her. Each of us has our own collection of Mary Jo's stories that we will cherish. Sadly, there will be no more. We will miss them and we will miss her. And I was asked to also read a letter from one of her dear colleagues, David Teplow, who is not able to be here today. He says, I first met Mary Jo at Harvard Medical School, where she gave a seminar on her work on ApoE. At the time, around 1993, the linkage between ApoE4 and Alzheimer's disease had just been reported. So I was excited to hear about Mary Jo's work in this new area. After the seminar, I introduced myself to this vivacious and knowledgeable scientist, qualities that were to serve her and the AD community well for under 30 years. As a protein chemist, I was particularly interested in understanding the differential interactions between the three different forms of isoforms of ApoE proteins and the amyloid beta protein. Mary Jo provided a much-needed link between the in vitro world in which I lived and the in vivo world in which the actual disease occurred, and vice versa. This was a scientific synergy made in heaven, which led to a lifelong professional and especially personal relationship. Anyone who knew Mary Jo as a person can appreciate her energy. She radiated a contagious enthusiasm that made interacting with her a joy. I know so because of our numerous and humorous interactions sitting next to each other at study sections. So humorous, in fact, that like bad children, the section chair made us sit next to her, so that we would be quiet. Mary Jo was dedicated to truth. She refused to publish results until they were mature, which to her meant doing many more experiments than the average scientist. When Mary Jo published a paper, one knew that the data supported the conclusions. What some will not know is that Mary Jo accomplished this while dealing with often painful and incapacitating illness. I often wondered how this was possible. Repeated exhortations to take it easy and take better care of herself was always trumped by her sense of responsibility. Words are clearly insufficient to express the depth of our collective grief. The world has become a much sadder place since we lost our colleague and friend. We miss you, Mary Jo.
I have some additional videos from collaborators and faculty that weren't able to attend today.
Mary Jo and I met in mid-90s. That's right after ApoE gene was discovered as a strong. Hello, everyone. I'm Gojin Bu, an old friend and colleague of Mary Jo Ladu. Mary Jo and I met in mid-90s. That's right after ApoE gene was discovered as a strong genetic risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. We started collaboration on the subject, focusing on defining how ApoE interact with amyloid and how the risky form of ApoE differ from the protective form. This collaboration led to several publications. Those work also led to additional interaction with other ApoE colleagues that include Bill Rayback, Steve Estes, I. Weber. The five of us form a group to study ApoE and Alzheimer's disease together, which led to the funding of a program project from NIH, and that was Mary Jo Ladu as the lead PI. We also organized the annual ApoE Symposium series, rotating among the 5 institutions, which were very well attended by colleagues from all over the world. Mary Jo's collegiality and leadership was well recognized and exemplified as she led that ApoE PPG. I'm really proud and privileged as a friend of Mary Jo. She's a caring friend who also knows how to have fun and celebrate little joys in life. Her love for her cats were well known, second to none. Trainees from Mary Jo's lab over the years would also agree that what a great mentor and friend Mary Jo was. One of my fun memories was in the summer of 1998 when we were attending the Alzheimer's Association International Conference in Amsterdam, when we also celebrated Mary Jo Ladu's 40th birthday. Some of us went down traveling to Belgium, Paris afterward. It was fun and memorable. That trip truly exemplified how Mary Jo Ladu really enjoyed traveling with friends. One complaint I had at the time was how much we walked, which was easily over 10 miles a day, sometimes 15 miles. Mary Jo is just simply too young to leave us, but her legacy, her smile, her laugh, her caring, and not least her tremendous contribution to science, in particular on ApoE, as related to Alzheimer's disease, will be with us forever. Rest in peace, my friend. We'll miss you.
Hi everyone, my name is Dongmin Kai, and I'm associate professor at Department of Neurology of Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. I had the pleasure of meeting Mary Jo in 2017 at the annual SFN meeting. She had organized one of the sessions where I was invited to present our work. She was warm and welcoming, introducing me to everyone and making me feel at home among many senior investigators in the APOE field. From that moment on, Mary Jo became more than just a colleague to me. She was a wonderful collaborator, a dear friend, and a role model. Over the years, we collaborated on various projects, and I was always impressed by her knowledge and expertise. She generously shared her insights and experience, and I learned so much from her. However, what I admired most about Mary Jo was her sense of humor and kindness. She had a way of making everyone feel at ease and bringing a smile to their face. I also remember during the pandemic in 2020, she sent me an email just to check in and make sure my family and I were safe. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world to me. Losing Mary Jo was a shock that I still haven't fully processed. We lost a valuable member of our field and a dear friend. However, the legacy lives on, and I know that I, along with many others, will always remember her kindness, dedication, and humor. She made a lasting impact on our lives, and she will be deeply missed. Thank you.
Hello, Brenda Russell here, feeling very sad that the occasion is Mary Jo Ladu's memorial service, but happy to remember Mary Jo. I first met her when she was a graduate student in physiology, and I was a new faculty member, and somehow Mary Jo needed one more member for her thesis committee, and I got lucky. I say lucky because they said, oh, it's wonderful, don't worry about it. You'll just enjoy reading this thesis. I did, but you know Mary Jo never did anything by halves, and that thesis was, well, twice as long as the average one and twice as good. So over the years, Mary Jo came back to UIC, and she would always stop by and say hello and keep in touch and talk about everything and anything. Such energy, such a delight, so helpful for the students, so wonderful for everything at UIC, especially helpful with honors undergrads and sharing expertise. And I was just looking at the last email I had from her just a few months ago, and it was, when are you coming up for a cup of tea? And anyone who's been in her office know that she made that little office space so inviting and so hospitable, and lots of choices of different kinds of tea. So, Mary Jo, I'm going to have a cup of tea and think of you. We'll all miss you and the wonderful work you did and the lives you touched.
Hi, it's Mark Resnick, and I just wanted to give a few words of reflection on Mary Jo from when I first knew her. She was a student. The kinesiology department couldn't provide for a PhD program, so they sent students through physiology to obtain their PhDs, and the students were universally outstanding, Mary Jo being absolutely no exception. What struck me as really unusual, though, as a member of her committee, was her extraordinary self-confidence. And I remember in one of the, in a committee meeting, when asked a question and giving an answer that was incorrect, her confidence was such that the faculty member who asked the question thought that they may have been wrong rather than her. That self-confidence is something she carried with her throughout her life, her all too brief life, and I just wanted, and it served her well. So Zichrona Levracha, or may her memory be a blessing. Thanks.
Hello, everyone.
I'm Mary Jo's older sister, 14 years her senior. And I think my few remarks today may shine a light on all that you have said about what she's accomplished in her life. Mary Jo had a superpower. Some of you, I'm sure, have suspected that. And from what you've said today, you must have known it. She didn't have the ability to jump over the tallest building. No, her superpower was her ability to overcome seeming insurmountable obstacles in her path, obstacles that would stop most mortals. She wasn't born with this superpower. She forged it in the hot fire of the trauma, loss, and abandonment she experienced as a young teenager. She was a survivor. She was a warrior. And I can tell by your comments, you have all witnessed that life force that she had. She faced down challenge after challenge in her life. Challenges to her science, to her lab, to her students, and most recently, to her health. She was unstoppable until she wasn't last month. Mary Jo's brain was always dedicated to science. Her heart was always with her students. They were her family. There will never be anyone else in this world who will say, "Yowzer," like Mary Jo could. And I will miss her more than she could ever have imagined.
I'm going to try not to have a technical difficulty here. I didn't get a chance to print. All of your thoughts are a very tough act to follow. Thank you so much for all your kind words about my wonderful Aunt Mary Jo. My name is Kathy, AKA Lucy, from Seattle with 3 kids. Whatever else she may have told you about me is a lie, probably. Many of you know MJ as a doctor, a mentor, a teacher, a boss, a cat-loving confidant, a friend. While her list of professional strides is long, her family simply knows her as Aunt Mary Jo. Mary Jo first entered my consciousness as a rescuer. She rescued our cat Albert from a house with 3 kids and 2 tired parents after his bladder got the best of him. I remember being very small and feeling so relieved hearing about how she cut a hole for his tail in a diaper so he could run around her apartment. And I knew he was okay. I then remember Aunt Mary Jo coming from Chicago to St. Louis for many Thanksgivings and Christmases. She always had plans with her good friend Sandy. She'd burp out loud, joke with my dad, and give the wildest prank gifts. Once when I was quite small, I remember a grapefruit spray-painted silver with an electrical cord, plug and prongs included, jammed into it and ready to be plugged in, all wrapped as a real gift. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I knew it was hilarious and that this grapefruit could possibly catch fire later in the day. Such was the hyper-festive spirit of Christmases at our house, and it was the best. Once I remember we went to Chicago. Again, I was very small. MJ took us to a Greek restaurant. I don't know if it still exists. But I was about 4 or 5, and I didn't know what a Greek was, but this restaurant really stuck in my mind because the plants and grass were on the roof, and there were goats grazing on the roof. And I just was like, my first time in a big city. It was amazing. Mary Jo fed me olives through the whole meal. I still love olives. And I was also just sold on being a city person after this visit and knew that's where I was going to end up. And I did. I have lived in many cities. And then our most recent visit this last October was one of our best. Mary Jo made my 10-year-old son caffeinated chai tea, poured me a stiff vodka drink, and humored the group of us while we watched Love It or List It on HGTV. We loved viciously ripping apart the cheap husbands and the wives that were unrealistic about what house they wanted. And now that show will always be cherished with me and my son, who loves it just as much as she did. In closing, I'll leave you with a meme from the internet I saw the other day on Facebook, even though MJ freaking hates Facebook. But I found something she would agree with. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and you were just lucky enough to be on it the same time as Bruce Springsteen. MJ, the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, and I was lucky enough to be on it the same time as you. Thank you for everything. I'll miss you.
I'm David Boone, Mary Jo's cousin, my brother and sisters and I. She was our closest cousin. We spent much time with her, and she was such a joy. I want to share one memorable experience we had while we were visiting her up here. It's when she lived on Giddings up north, Giddings Avenue, and we were coming into the city in her car, and she was driving, and the traffic was really bad. And it was really bad. And she said, "This traffic's driving me crazy." And her telephone said, "There's several psychiatrists in the nearby area. Would you like me to suggest and give you directions?" And we cracked up. That was so funny. And we're all here as friends and relatives of Mary Jo's. One of my greatest regrets is that she wasn't here to hear the way we felt about her, spoken so clearly and lovingly. That's one of my great regrets. And the other great regret I have is that my wife and I, Mary Ann, we spoke to her before we took our last trip to Africa in January. We go there on evangelistic missionary trips. And I deeply regret that when we came back, we didn't call and talk to her and tell her all of the miracles that we saw with our very own eyes. And I share this with you here to give you hope, if some of you don't have hope, that God is real, Jesus is real, amazing, impossible miracles that science can't explain, because if you could explain it, it wouldn't be a miracle. We saw them with our very own eyes. And it's such an important thing to know that there's hope. And so I share that with you now, my parting statement. Thank you very much for the love that you've shown to my cousin, to our cousin. We loved her so much too. Thank you.
We have one last video from a good friend and some of Mary Jo's former students.
Hello, everyone. And I'm Arden Teplow, and I was a very, very close friend of Mary Jo's. And I decided I don't like saying was. I am a close friend, and I always will be. And so I will continue to say that I am. We were close in a way that few people are. We shared everything. I mean everything, our deepest, darkest, happiest secrets and events and daily life and everything. It was a very, very special relationship, and I'll miss her. I can't express in words how much I'm going to miss her. But I did want to let you know. We met over 30 years ago when my husband David and I went to a science conference in San Diego. And he said, we're having lunch with my friend and colleague, Mary Jo Ladu. And we did. And from that moment on, Dave was the chopped liver in our trio. And Mary Jo and I just took over, and we talked all the time. We visited as much as we could. She came more often than I did to Boston and now to Los Angeles, and shared a lot of just great experiences on our walks where she got us lost and I was really mad and she just thought it was funny. And going to the Huntington Gardens in Pasadena and the Botanical Gardens in Chicago, where I would take multiple pictures and I would stop every 2 seconds and she would get annoyed. And so she took pictures of me taking pictures of the flowers and cacti and such. And she had a whole collection of me in these very unflattering positions, and it was quite funny. We had pajama parties and laughed a lot, and people here who know her only through her scientific life, she had another side, and I'm sure you saw some of it, but we shared a lot of her science and what was going on, but her other life with her cats that meant so much to her, now Adam and Eve, who are adorable, her kids, as she called them, in her lab were her family and how she cared for them and did for them. And they did so much for her too. Our other dear friend Lynn, who was always there for her, and they had many adventures together, many. And I just want to say that I did not have enough time, not nearly enough time with my dear friend. Where else can you find somebody that you can say things that you are afraid to even speak? So all I can say is that, Mary Jo, you will be with me forever, and I love you, and I don't want to be in a world that you're not here, but I hope you are at peace. And mwah.
My name is Austin Nguyen, and I first met Dr. Mary Jo Ladu, also known as MJ, in 2016 when I was a freshman in college at UIC. This was when I joined MJ's Alzheimer's disease research lab. I was a young and aspiring pre-med student interested in going to medical school, and MJ took me under her wing, just as she does with many other undergraduate students interested in a career in research or medicine or something in the healthcare science field. MJ immediately took the chance to get to know me, really guided and mentored me throughout college. She was one of my strongest supporters in my medical school application that resulted in me successfully going into medical school and now graduating medical school and furthering my career. I'll never forget how MJ really never gave up on me or anyone else in her lab. She truly treated us as if we were her family. She cared deeply about us, and that was very evident in the way that she always called us to be better and to challenge us to reach for new heights. She was a wonderful mentor that had true care and compassion for all those that crossed her path. She really devoted so much time and effort and invested in me to become someone that was interested in research, to always be looking for solutions, to different problems that maybe we've been told don't have answers, such as in the case of Alzheimer's disease. So ultimately, I think MJ will always be remembered, number one, for her contributions to research in the field of Alzheimer's disease, where she's by far a leader, and then maybe even more importantly, her impact on others and all the people that have crossed her lab. So whether it be me or other undergrads or graduate students, postdocs or fellows, she was truly a remarkable individual, and she will be greatly missed by myself and I'm sure many others in the UIC community and beyond.
Hello, my name is Helena Zeros, and I want to thank you for allowing me to speak in remembrance of MJ today. I was an MD/MS student in her lab. When thinking of what to say about MJ in this short video is incredibly difficult because I didn't know how I was going to fit how much she truly meant to me. When I think about MJ, I think of a strong, fierce, fearless, loving, giving, and truly selfless woman. And believe me, I know we could spend hours talking about her academic accomplishments as a trailblazer in her field, and I know how lucky I was as a female in science to have her as my mentor. But I want to spend a little bit of time exploring what she meant to me and who she was as a person. She was more than just my academic and master's mentor. She was a friend, a support system during a difficult time, and a life mentor to me. And I know that many people here feel the same way. The joy, love, and support she just brought was incredible. She gave everything that she had and everything that she was to the people around her to make sure they reached their full potential. I would not be where I am today without MJ, that's for sure. When I was scared about coming to the Mayo Clinic neurology residency, she promptly brought me into her office, yelled at me, told me I was being ridiculous, and gave me the support and love I needed to reach for my goals and my full potential. That was her superpower. She could just know what you needed in that moment and give it to you to make you feel loved and supported in every way. But there's also a fun side to MJ that we all can admit. I think back fondly to the hours we spent in her apartment, rearranging her furniture, making sure her carpet was just right, aligned correctly. I remember the conversations we would have in her office over chai. I remember all the time she would spend talking about her travels and her favorite museums to me. She would even give away her things. She loved giving away her things. I currently have 2 rugs, multiple shirts, and multiple mugs that she gave me. And I'm really thankful that I have those now because those are things I will always treasure and remember her by. Something I admired the most about her was how strong she was throughout her whole illness. I knew she was sick, but she just came in every day with such zest and enthusiasm that it was infectious. We were able to kind of touch base a few weeks before she passed, and I just remember how excited she was to host a party and for me to come over and see all the changes she made to her apartment. And that was her. That was her zest for life. That was what she loved doing, just bringing everyone around her together and making them feel loved and supported. It's difficult for me to wrap my head around the fact that MJ's not here, that she won't be in there in the future to just have our crazy talks with, to talk about my accomplishments and to just have as a support system. But I know she's in a better place. And more importantly, I know she's looking down on us and is going to be proud of the legacy that we leave here for her. In Greece, because I'm Greek, we have a saying, may your memory be eternal. And I know that MJ's memory will be eternal. And that's going to be through the love and the legacy that she left with us. She just inspired an amazing group of future innovators, researchers, physicians, and people to just be amazing, not only citizens of this world and people, but also amazing mentors for future generations. In the future, when I'm with my mentees, I will always think back to MJ and give the love, the time, the support that she gave to me back to my mentees. And that will be her legacy, and that's something that we can do for her every day. Although I will miss her, and I love MJ, I know that we will keep her legacy going strong. Thank you.
I realize how difficult this would be, so bear with me. So I'm here to give my perspective from her research family over the last 10 to 15 years. But before I give my thoughts, I'm going to start by reading the feelings of her current and most recent lab members. This is Dabika, Anna, Juan, Jason, all the undergrads and students that have passed through her lab who helped write this. All of us in the lab have been through MJ's highs and lows since about 2016. We know that the past few years since the pandemic, her health issues have made life very challenging. We saw her struggle to balance her work and her health, and it was not easy to see. Despite this, she bounced back after every surgery and showed up to work. One tough memory that stands out was when she had major surgery and was recovering in her condo. We were all there at her bedside, writing an invited review and a research report, as well as preparing undergrad student posters. Thus, in her own unique way, MJ taught us to be resilient. We admired her passion and energy when she talked about her science. She felt most energized when she was in her lab despite winter storms or heat waves. She was happiest when mentoring undergrads, guiding them through their capstone proposals, MCATs, or just a bad day. Her compassion was not limited to her undergrads. There were times when we were too afraid to talk in front of an audience. I feel that right now. She sat with us while we rehearsed our talks, offering plenty, and that's underlined, plenty of constructive criticism. She pushed us to conquer that fear and talk about our research with pride. And sometimes there were moments where we needed time off, and she respected that. Her love for her lab was undeniable, her commitment to her research unfaltering. Thus, she also taught us that if you're happy in what you're doing, you'll find a source of pride and inner peace. These qualities motivated her to push her retirement. Her dream was to settle by a beach in Puerto Rico. Despite this yearning, she wanted to leave the lab in an intellectually and financially stable position. Her plan was to provide us with many opportunities to move the science forward. Until the very last minute, the lab was everything to her. Overall, she taught us that if you are resilient, engaging, and passionate, you can accomplish a lot in your professional life, even more so with the support of colleagues and family. We are unlikely to have met any other way. We, members of the Ladu Lab, will always consider ourselves family. We have MJ to thank for that. She made us into a family. So I guess that just leaves me, and I'm going to be brief, of honestly just echoing all the things we've just heard today. Now, some of you may have heard of me, probably through Mary Jo, others not, as I'm a bit of a hermit at the UIC and in life. So you might be thinking, why is he talking? How does he know MJ? I joined MJ's lab in around 2009, almost 15 years ago, for my second postdoc, the first in the US. It took me a couple of years to really find my footing and get into the groove of academic life coming from industry. But once I did, I started working closer with MJ. Due to the broken system of Alzheimer's research, something that still plagues us all to this day, we found ourselves in a very difficult financial position. But MJ said we should stick to our morals about what scientific research should be, founded in sensible mechanistic questions and hard work, not the latest trends, fads, and egos. So we worked 7-day weeks, often 12, 15-hour days, for months on end, taking turns napping in our office floor as we wrote grants and papers. That period ended up being very successful due to her resilience and passion that we just heard about. Through it all, I developed the utmost respect for Mary Jo. I admired her absolutely wicked sense of humor, her intelligence, and the fact she was never afraid to speak her mind and stand up for herself and what she thought was right. We used to debate and argue about science and life continually, often forgetting other people were listening. She would have to say to undergrads and anyone around, "It's okay, Mommy and Daddy are just fighting." But we usually always ended the day in her office laughing it off. Some of my favorite times with MJ were walking to the parking lot together late at night, swearing so loudly at the world and telling the most inappropriate jokes you've ever heard, and then going home with a big smile on our face. Our friendship continued after I left the laboratory to start my own program at the UIC. We were even recently discussing how we could best work together again so she could retire and her lab and research legacy continue, something that I'm committed to doing. So in preparing this talk, I wasn't sure what to do, whether to tell stories or something else. But there are so many stories I could pull from, good, bad, funny, sad, frustrating, some very bizarre, the whole range. But ultimately, like many of you, I want to keep most of them between me and her. Instead, I want to use this as my personal selfish therapy and succinctly describe what MJ meant to me. MJ had one of the biggest hearts I have ever seen, and she made me feel loved. From bringing back presents from her holidays, like phallic-shaped liquor bottles or 6-foot big, long, blow-up unicorns, to coming to my office, and even if we hadn't seen each other in a while, instantly knowing something was wrong and she would not leave until I told her what it was. I knew she had my back no matter what in life. I once talked with her about our relationship, and she said I went from being her muse to Laz's husband, but really, she was my US surrogate mother. So what did MJ mean to me? It's exactly how I've had her in the phone for the last 12 years. MJM, and the M stands for Mom. In thinking about this, I realize everything I've just said is not unique to me, and it applies to everybody that know her. Well, not the unicorn part, that's mine. She was a genuine person who's serious about her science, but loved to laugh and help people that she cared about. But how do we finish this? And this will be a complete surprise to my lab. As everybody knows, I absolutely hate quotes. So I'm going to be a complete hypocrite, and I'm going to steal from Keanu Reeves, and I think it's because I absolutely love John Wick movies. I know I should have been Bruce Springsteen, but this resonated to me. He was asked, what do you think happens when we die? And he said, I know the ones who love us will miss us. Like all of you, I will truly miss Mary Jo. Even though this is a memorial, I think we should look at this as a celebration of her life, her work achievements, how many people's lives she touched, and how many people respected and ultimately loved her. With that, I want to thank everybody involved for organizing today, particularly Lee. And on behalf of the department, I want to thank everybody for coming to celebrate Mary Jo's life. And we now have a reception outside for those of you who want to stay and reminisce for a little bit longer. Thank you.